Welcome everybody to Broomfield Conversations. This is an August occasion. We've got what I think of as the anthem dudes on tonight, and you'll see their names, Rob, Charlie, and Andy, and they're going to walk us through the Blue Book. So, a couple things I want to let y'all know about. Tonight, the City Council is asking for public comment on 2 ballot measures, and I've got them listed up there. And this participation starts at 6, but we expect the agenda item will start around 9 p.m. tonight. So when you get done with this meeting and you know everything there is to know about those ballot measures, I'd like to encourage you to make public comment with the City Council, and we'll put that phone number in the chat window so that you guys can participate with the City Council. The next thing I want to talk about is future Broomfield events. Our monthly meeting is this Thursday, and we've got some candidates that I think will really want our support. Matt Gray is up for re-election. Brian Mason is going for his district attorney in JD 17. And we also have Madison Butler, who's a representative from the Hickenlooper campaign. We also have Pastor Rick. He's a special guest, and he's going to talk about criminal justice. So that's a lot of folks that we're planning to be with on October 8th. And then on October 11th, we've got a lit drop for Sally Bocella, and Joe Neguse is leading this. And I think any time that you get to spend with Joe Neguse is a good time, doing good things, maybe even causing good trouble. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that on behalf of Sally Bocella. Then the last thing I want to tell you about is on October 20th, Leslie Herod is a state house representative. She's Black, she's trans, and she also runs the Black Legislative Caucus, and she's going to talk to us about racial injustice. So those are kind of the future events. For those of you that have been at our meetings before, you know how to run the chat window. It's at the bottom of the screen, and we'll take questions throughout our conversation tonight. And questions for the anthem dudes, questions in general, all should go up in the chat window, and we'll catch them as we can. Before I introduce the speakers, we're going to talk about money. As y'all know, it's a really important year, and we're 28 days away. So we're getting out the vote in a lot of different ways. Charlie King is working hard, and you can hear those details on Thursday. But I'd like to encourage you to donate, and what you see there is a QR code and a URL, and you can just aim your camera right now at that QR code, and it'll take you to Act Blue, and you can give us some money, and I'd appreciate that. So let me introduce you to the speakers. The first one I'm going to introduce you to is Rob. He's kind of the newest guy out in Anthem Ranch of the dudes from my perspective. And he's lived in a lot of different places.
Say that again.
And is going to help us tonight as the MC of the Blue Book. The next person I'm going to introduce you to is Charlie King. I met him in 2018. He showed up with an Oklahoma accent and just a fine work ethic. And so we spent a lot of time together, me trying to encourage appropriate behavior, and for the most part, I was successful. Andy is our vice chair. Andy is just a godsend. Whenever I get ready to do something intemperate, which once a week, Andy talks to me about why I might want to do something else. I deeply value Andy's compassion and level-headedness. So with that, those are our speakers.
Okay.
And I'd like to turn it over to Rob, and
Okay.
he can share his screen.
Hopefully. Let's see if it works. So far, so good. Am I shared?
Not quite yet.
Okay. I've got my file up.
And there, you push the share screen, and then you'll get a series of screens, and you pick the one, and then you push share.
I can't seem to get my Zoom back up. Where is it? There's Peggy Reed. Okay. Share screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have to click those two things at the bottom. Okay. So far, so good.
We gotcha.
Got it.
Okay. Crisp and easy, just like we rehearsed. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Goldsmith. And thank you, Peggy, and your team, and Gary, for a great turnout. Thanks, for everybody, for being here. I'll be the host and the presenter, along with Charlie King and Andy Kramer. I wanted to thank Perry Garsamke, also on our executive committee at Anthem Dems. Unfortunately, he's been taken ill, and we will deal with it and wish him just a quick recovery. We're going to walk through 6 PowerPoint presentations rather quickly. I like to tell people that we respect your intelligence. We're not going to do that terrible thing where people read every single word on every single screen. We respect that you can kind of skim and scan pretty much on each slide and pick out the keywords that might drive your questions. And you do have your instructions now, thank you, Peggy, about the chat function and finding it at the bottom of your screen. So each person will have about 5 minutes for Q&A, and please keep your questions crisp and short so that we can get through these 6 PowerPoints. We also know that we're creating a collection of these 6 PowerPoint presentations for you, our viewers. So don't feel, like I would, compulsive to try to take crazy notes. Just enjoy it and absorb it. And we will make a collection of PowerPoint presentations that you see tonight, and then send it out to you all after the meeting, once Perry gets better and can do it for us. So I hope that some of the word got out to you, that to prepare for tonight, you have your blue book handy. All I can do is, I can't ask everybody that, but I hope that you have your blue book handy. You haven't received your official ballot packet yet from Broomfield County Elections Division, but we do have some presentation on the ballot nonetheless, and it'll be on your screen. So we're talking about voter education tonight. This is a really important slide for you, and it'll come back at the end of the meeting for you as well. In not so many words, we want the goal tonight is education, more than who to vote for and hit you over the head about that. This is more about education and how to read the ballot, how to read the blue book, and how to do the best you can to be the best prepared voter. On the other hand, we want you to vote Democrat, and these are your 3 best links to the Broomfield Dems voter guide, the Democratic Party's page on their candidates, and then Ballotpedia has a pretty good page on Colorado's ballot measures, the stuff that's on the ballot as well, and we'll getting deeper into that. So we will put this slide back up for you, and that's just some really good information for you. And now we'll close out on this and open a next PowerPoint, hopefully a little faster. And that'll be Charlie, right? Let's see if I can get this for you, Charlie. Faster and easier. How's that? You got it? Is everybody see
That
that?
works really well. Like Rob said tonight, our goal is to teach you about the Blue Book as a tool, and the Blue Book and I have something in common. I was born a week before Dwight Eisenhower got elected president in 1952, and the Blue Book actually started the following spring. It was passed by the Colorado legislature as a statute, so we're the same age. And I can tell you that a 67-year-old document like this Blue Book has seen every nuance, every sleight of hand, and every shenanigan that could possibly go on. It is time-tested, and I think it's a really great tool. I hope all of you have your Blue Books, because I want to just walk you through a couple of the pages. If you open the very first page, you see at the top of the page the members of the Legislative Council. And in Broomfield, we're fortunate enough that our very own Vicki Marble, who's a Senate District 23, was part of the Legislative Council for this Blue Book. And we are even more fortunate that she's term limited and won't be there anymore. We're hoping that next year Sally Bocella's name is in Senate District 23. And if you've got any questions about how that's going to happen, be sure to go to the Broomfield M's website. We've got a link to Sally, and you can learn all about her campaign. The Legislative Council supervises staff that does all the administrative work for the legislature, and just one of the things they do is to prepare the Blue Book. Next slide, Rob. The process for developing the Blue Book is tried and true, and there's just a couple of things you need to know about it. They set the schedule with the Secretary of State so that petitions are due or ballot information is due at a certain time. Then the preparation of the Blue Book starts. The Legislative Council staff actually writes the document, and they have a lot of discretion there. What you see is after they listen to public input, after they look through the legislation, is their opinion, and the only time it's changed is by a 2/3 vote of the Legislative Council, which is the group that's right there inside the cover of the Blue Book. So the Legislative Council staff has a lot of discretion. And my experience over the 20 years I've lived in Colorado is that they use that pretty wisely. Rob, can you give me the next slide?
Coming up. Yes, sir.
So we want to talk about navigating in the Blue Book. And then we're going to follow by looking at 3 specific issues in the Blue Book, and we'll walk you through completely. But in terms of looking at the Blue Book, it's really important to know that all of the issues are touched 3 different times. There's a quick reference guide, and if you'll turn to page 1 of your Blue Book, you'll see Amendment B, the Gallagher Amendment, which is one of the ones we're going to discuss. 3 paragraphs is all that they have on the quick reference guide. And normally we're going to tell you that the best approach is to read the quick reference guide, and then if you are interested in more detail, turn to the analysis. And for the Gallagher Amendment, the analysis starts on page 8 and runs for 4 or 5 pages of analysis, and that includes a section of arguments for the amendment and a section of arguments against the amendment. To me, that's the most important section, and we'll come back to that section with the Gallagher Amendment in a few minutes. The next section is the text and title of the proposed amendment. Because I am not an attorney, and because I don't write documents like this, that is almost always unintelligible to me. And I very seldom look at it unless it's really late at night and I can't go to sleep. The last thing we wanted to point out is the judicial performance evaluations. They start on page J1 at the very back of the book. And these are based on a review criteria. It's a peer review on judges that have been appointed, and they have to come up for approval by the public, come up for vote after they've been a judge. Because it's a peer review, it is pretty difficult not to get a good review. You've got to be way outside the white lines to get, and having problems getting along with people and doing your job to get a bad peer review. And so when I go through the judges and I vote the whole ballot, I vote all the way to the bottom. I look for judges that have a couple or maybe 3 out of the 11 votes. And if they've got more than 2 or 3, I almost always vote for them to go. Because if they're not getting along with everybody else, they are not part of the team. And as we've seen here a lot in the last 4 or 5 years, local justice can be a real problem if the team doesn't work together with justice in mind. Rob, I
Yes,
think
sir.
we're ready to take questions, if there are any, on just the Blue Book and the way it's organized.
Yes, sir. Any questions out there?
And if not, we can move right on.
Oh,
Well,
just
okay.
real quickly, can you hear me? This is Andy.
Yes.
Yeah, I just saw what Ian has said, that he received the Broomfield ballot guide today, and I did too. So this is a supplement to the Blue Book. So if you didn't get it today, as Ian and I did, you might be getting it in the next couple of days. So thanks, Ian, for mentioning that.
Okay. And thank you, Charlie, for your presentation. Hopefully, is the ballot up? Everybody gets to see that?
You bet.
Yes,
I'm going
yes.
to take a couple minutes.
Hello?
I'm going to take a couple minutes on how the
Hello?
ballot is. Hello, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you asked for questions. I have a quick question.
Okay.
I have a teenager in my neighborhood who just turned 19, is excited to vote his first time. But he's at work right now. Is there any chance that tonight's presentation is being recorded and can be accessed?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, let me answer that. Yes, it is being recorded, and if you'll put your name in the chat window, I'll send you a link. We'll have it on the website, and I'm happy to send you a message specifically if you put your email in the chat window.
All right, thank you much.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
And Dottie, if he has any questions, don't hesitate to have him call one of us. Because getting somebody out of the gate right is the real secret to a lifelong good voter.
Yeah, I'm trying to be careful and not push him as a Democrat, although he told me his father is registered independent, and I don't want to come across to his parents as, oh, I'm pushing him to one party. He registered as an independent like I did when I first registered many moons ago, and I want him to be informed but not feel pushed.
That's wonderful.
Okay. We have we've had our background now on the Blue Book. Thank you, Charlie. And now just a quick overview of the ballot, because they won't go in the mail till a couple of days from now. It's a busy ballot. Don't forget, it's printed on both sides when you get it. And the first section, obviously, is federal offices. It's nice to see Biden and Harris up top there. So you have your federal offices scrolling down here. You have U.S. Senator Hickenlooper, happens to be up top. And there's Joe up top for the Congress, District 2. And then you have a section on state offices at the bottom of the first column. The regent and the state senator, state rep, and DA. There are 7 offices up for election. That's the first section. The next, as over on the right side, as Charlie described to you are the 11 judges who are up. It might be a little bit different from other places you've lived. You don't vote certainly by party because we're nonpartisan, and you don't actually vote, yes, or you don't vote for a justice, yes, for the next 4-year term, for example. The action words are, do you want to retain this justice? Yes or no? And there's 11 judges up for retention on the bench, right down the right side there. And then we get to the ballot measures. That's the third section. There are 11 ballot measures on your ballot that are statewide, and then 3 that are about Broomfield in particular. And you see on the bottom of the column here on the first page are your initial couple of state ballot measures, and then on the back the other state amendments, and then somewhere, okay, the bottom of this column here is Broomfield's first one. I would say, except I moved here from Alabama, these are pretty much your typical egregious, I counted 250 word, one run-on sentence. And all I can say to you all, and I took best advantage of it as well, is don't be intimidated by the run-on sentences and these ballot measures wordings. Get that blue book out, and it'll really help you be an educated voter, because they can be intimidating, and you need to vote for everything on your ballot. Don't just jump ahead. So after you are an educated voter with your again with your blue book, and now hopefully you have some overview of the ballot, then in context with those 3 links that we gave you for the Ballotpedia and Colorado and Broomfield Democrat parties, you'll be able to be fully educated and prepared. So that is my race through on the ballot. Can I take any questions? Going once, going twice?
Oh, just a second.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is it's a good thing that it's not a question, but it's a comment, and we might want to consider it as a question. That is, regarding the judges, the information is peer-reviewed, but that does not make this a fair assessment. Sometimes women judges are treated differently, and there is a different standard. So I think that's certainly something to consider, whether or not
And Andy,
you are in agreement with that.
It's an excellent
and
point.
in fact, after the review, the judges are given space to respond to any issues that have come up. So in the particular blue book we have this year, there is a woman judge that got a pretty rocky review, and she got to make her response, and it was published as part of the blue book, which I think is the fairest thing to do.
All right.
Right.
We'll move on to Andy. You're going to introduce the next section of our show here.
Okay. Yes. Just want to briefly say what both Charlie and Rob have said, and that is vote the whole ballot. That's really important. In that introductory slide that had my picture there, it mentioned that I got involved in 2010 when Diane Primavera lost because of undervoting. She was about 200 votes short because about 200 people didn't vote the whole ballot. So please do that. So what we're going to do next is take a look at some sample ballot measures, and we're going to do a quick analysis on them. We chose these because we felt they might be somewhat representative of issues where people might not be quite sure yet on how they wish to vote. So I believe the first one, Rob, is going to be the Gallagher Amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Let's see if we can share. My wife put in front of me a bulletin that Stephen Miller has now tested positive.
Yep.
Not one of my favorite people, but I don't wish it wish it on anybody. All right, let's see. Slideshow from the beginning. Is that up, or am I still screwing up here? People see that?
That's where we started.
All right, there we go.
So there we go. Let's talk about the Gallagher Amendment. And as we talk about these things, it is only fair that we started with the one that's most complicated. But it's a good way to give you an overview about how to use the Blue Book. And when I talked about how the Blue Book was organized, I said one of the things that I always do is I read the quick references to get oriented. And when I did that on the Gallagher Amendment, starting on page 1, it did not provide enough information to me to make a decision. It was much higher review of a very complicated issue than I expected. So the next thing I did is I turned to page 12 and I read the arguments for and against. And I think that in this particular case, the arguments for and against are very well done. If you go to Ballotpedia and if you go to some of the other references, they essentially repeat what is in the 6 paragraphs on page 12. So if you'll read through those, I think it will tell you what the Gallagher Amendment means to you. Now, the 4 pages in front of that are full of charts, graphs, arithmetic, numbers, trends, all the kind of stuff that a real nerd like me enjoys reading. But the fact of the matter is, if you read page 12 and you internalize that, it tells you, it is pretty good to tell you what the Gallagher Amendment is going to mean to you. Rob, let's go to the next slide.
I'm trying to. Oh, you are. It's complicated. Let's see. There we go.
It is complicated.
Turn the little wheel. Okay.
When you're reading all this about the Gallagher Amendment, one of the things that helped me is that instead of reading Amendment B, every time Amendment B shows up, just read it as repealing the Gallagher Amendment so that you understand that we're repealing it and don't get caught up in double negatives. You just say repeating the Gallagher Amendment and it reads a lot easier. There are 3 major pieces that come together to calculate the check that you write for property taxes. The Gallagher Amendment sets the assessment rate statewide, and this particular Amendment B is about taking that out of the state constitution and letting the legislature make those decisions. The mill levy, which is the second component, is set by the local entity, the local school district, the fire district, the city, whatever local district is assessing the taxes at the rate set by the state, puts a mill levy with that in order to determine the amount of your check. The third component is the value of the property. The assessed value of the property. So it takes 3 pieces. Gallagher only deals with 1. Now, it's important to understand that the Gallagher Amendment, in and of itself, only sets the big picture. The actual rate is set by a separate statute. And the legislature, even if Gallagher is repealed, the legislature will have to freeze the rate by statute. So if Gallagher is repealed, the state legislature will have control of what that rate will be next year and at any time in the future. Rob, let's go to the next slide.
Okay, let's go to the next. There we go.
A couple of things I would like to be sure you understand as background information. Amendment B is a legislative referred constitutional amendment. It means the legislature put it on the ballot. The legislature did the same thing in 1982. So the legislature then put the Gallagher Amendment on the ballot, and it was passed by the voters. Now the legislature is asking us to take it out of the Constitution. It requires a supermajority to do that, though. So based on the votes, you can see that there are Democrats and Republicans, unfortunately not our senator, but Democrats and Republicans that voted to put this on the ballot. And because it's a legislative ballot initiative, it only requires a majority to pass. It is really important, and it's very well stated in the write-up, that Gallagher does not change Tabor. So any time any local entity wants to increase the mill levy, they have got to come to the voters. And in fact, we have that exact situation on the ballot this year, because there's one of the Broomfield questions, and it's ballot question 2B, that is coming to the voters at the same time to adjust the mill levy. If the Gallagher Amendment is repealed, there is the language of 2B is null and void, because there will be no adjustment in the mill levy. So those are things that, as you look at Gallagher and as you read the literature, I'd like you to keep in mind. With that, is there any questions about how the Blue Book is presenting the information and the information that was pulled together to develop the Blue Book? Rob, either they understood it very clearly or I've got them totally confused.
Well, Charlie, there's a question in the chat room from Ian, and I think he'd probably like a little deeper dive. The question is, Senate Bill 20-223 seals the tax rates for 2020. Should Amendment B be repealed, not mentioned in the Blue Book? How does this affect the Broomfield issue 2B?
Okay, well, going back to the previous slide, we said that the legislature has to set by statute the implementing rates. And so that is may not be quite as clearly stated in a document as it should be, but the legislature will go back and set that rate, and if 2B is, or if Amendment B is repealed, and it is by statute, it means that they can also change it at any time in the future, the assessment rate. All right, and then the relationship with 2B, the wording in Broomfield question 2B is based on the Gallagher Amendment adjusting the ratio, the big picture number. And if the Gallagher Amendment is repealed and there is no adjustment in the ratio, I don't think 2B applies at all. If the Gallagher Amendment is left in the Constitution, then 2B becomes kind of an autopilot for revenue stabilization for the city of Broomfield. It does not apply to the schools. It does not apply to the fire districts. It is just for the city of Broomfield. And Ian, I don't know if that's enough detail or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Ian.
Now I'm trying to share my, let's see, let's go there. I want to share. Why can't I share?
You are sharing. You need to pull up your next PowerPoint, Rob.
Oh, okay. So is it there?
Amendment 76? Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. You know, I have an MBA, which stands for mediocre but arrogant. That's what I tell people, so. Whew, Charlie, thank you for that presentation. I have to say that I volunteered for Ballot Amendment 76 for two reasons. One, it doesn't have a lot of charts and graphs, and Charlie, bless his heart, handled it a whole lot better than me. And number two, seriously, I don't know, coming from Alabama, we just saw so many shenanigans with wordsmithing and mind manipulation when it came to constitutional amendments that I just had to jump on this. And I say it'll be a laser focused item. It really is. When you take a look at what it's about, amending the Constitution of our state, required that in order to vote, you have to be a U.S. citizen. Well, right now, take a look at the no vote there. Amendment 76 would want to throw out the current constitutional language that in Colorado, every citizen is eligible to vote in Colorado elections. So if you vote no, it'll remain unchanged in the Constitution. A yes on this proposed amendment says now you have to be a USA citizen and 18 or older. You know, right now, citizens who are of Colorado who are 17 can still vote. Also, Amendment 76 would remove that right and privilege as a citizen. But the key part is only United States citizens. So what is it doing? If you vote for Amendment 76, then in the words of the people who put it on the ballot, this is a fundamental right reserved only for American U.S. citizens. But if you want to vote against 76, which is my passion, and gee, there's a lot of red words there, this amendment of our Constitution is unnecessary, potentially divisive. There's really, in the experts' opinions, there's really no problem that currently exists. It may result in voter confusion. That's my Alabama background, quite frankly. It could discourage and disenfranchise voters. That's really what the argument against this amendment is. Discourage, once again, another trick to discourage. So that's why I call this laser beam. It's literally just trying to change a couple of words, but boy, do they mean a lot. I'll close with a couple of reminders. This is a constitutional amendment that requires 55% of the voters for approval in Colorado. It was placed there by petition. One of the things we talked about in planning this evening's presentations is who are behind these petitions. You know, the people with the clipboard on the street corner that you signed or you were asked to sign for all kinds of stuff. Well, it was put on the ballot by Colorado Citizen Voters Incorporated. What the heck is that? It's all about John Loudon. He's a guy, it's a Republican member of the Missouri legislature, you see, an advisor to America First. That may spring something in your memory banks. Policy advisors to the Trump campaign. He moved from Missouri now to Palm Beach. He's used inflamed derogatory words aimed at women, Muslims, and Democrats, promoting false conspiracies. Good stuff, really good stuff. And his theme on his website of America First and Citizen Voters is the constitutions have always defined who can vote. What we need to push is to tell society who cannot vote. So if that doesn't give you a good background and a good reason to have a clear way forward to vote, then I'd be happy to answer your questions.
So Rob, there's a question about 17-year-olds voting, and we think that what you're saying there is 17-year-olds can vote in a primary if they'll be 18 by the time of election. Is that what you were
That's what
after?
I was, and Andy reminded me that the other day in an email, and I forgot to write it really clear in my notes, so thank you. This is new to me as a new guy. After 3 years, can I still say I'm a new guy?
You can in this
Can.
particular case, but in
Okay.
the Zoom chat, that the point that I think you're making is that today 17-year-olds can vote in the primary, and if they're going to be 18 by the general election, and
Right.
this ballot measure would change that.
Would take that away.
Take that
Again,
away.
there's nothing broken. Why are we trying to fix it? Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Loudon is telling us what we have to fix. Any other questions on my Amendment 76?
I have a question.
Okay.
You're saying that, you didn't say it, but I think you're implying that we should be voting no on this.
Well, that's sure. Okay.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a person who would be hurt if this passes? An example of that kind of situation?
I guess it's going after, I mean, if
You said it was divisive. That's why I'm.
yeah, I can only glean that what comes next. Only United States citizens can vote. I presume the next step would be, in order to register or vote at the poll, you have to bring your papers, and I mean, it's going to disenfranchise people who are citizens in Colorado, but not necessarily, paper driven kosher United States citizens.
Okay.
That's what I see in Florida now. They're trying to do, and even you have to have a photo ID and have a person co-sign your application for your ballot. This could be a really bad slippery slope.
Right. So yeah, so you're basically saying this is just opening the door to some bad people.
It does. Some bad actors. Yeah.
I have an opinion. I have a lot of them. This is Peggy. I think the other thing this is basically a get out the vote ploy for our conservative friends. So what this looks like to me is a change that can be used to drive voter turnout. Now, that's one thing. And I think also withdrawing 17-year-olds from primaries that then can vote in the general election is not the way we want to go, right? I think that we want to have voters, and I think we want to create an environment where young voters are involved. So I'll get off my soapbox, and I'm done with my opinion now.
Thank you. Okay. If not, I'll move on to the next PowerPoint. Let's see how I do with this one. Proposition 113. And is that up for everybody to see? Hopefully. Everybody get to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yippee. Thank you. Without getting too deep into the weeds here, hopefully you all have some context on what is called the National Popular Vote Compact. And this has made its way to Proposition 113 on the ballot. It needs a simple majority of Colorado voters to pass. Without getting too preachy, I think it's a brilliant masterstroke in doing what we can to deal with the common sense of electing a president and consequently vice president by national popular vote. And number two, trying to deal strategically with the Electoral College and what has maybe might be a future challenge for us to maybe change that or eliminate it. Let's talk about the national popular vote a little bit here. If you vote yes, you would approve a bill that has been passed by the legislature and passed by the governor, but what they directed was it then go on the ballot. Most of the states in our country are considering the national popular vote. Many have already passed joining this so-called compact of states who are pledging to award the entirety of their electors in a national election to the candidate who wins the national popular vote. And I'll get back in those weeds in a second. A no vote on this proposition will reject that initiative, reject the bill that was passed by the legislature in Colorado and signed by the governor. It'll retain our current system. You know, we have 9 electors in our state because we have 2 senators and 7 members of Congress, the House of Representatives. So we have a total of 9 electors. And right now, of course, if you win the election for president in Colorado, you get those 9 electors. And you remember your civics class, off they go to the Electoral College and follow that pathway of eventually doing their work to actually elect the next president and the vice president. So if you vote no, you'll stay the course. If you vote yes, you will be those who wanted Colorado would join the National Popular Vote Compact with other states. Whew, okay, what does all that mean? The compact is an agreement among participating states that whoever wins the national vote should be elected president. The states who are in that agreement commit to award all of their electoral votes, that would be our 9 in Colorado, to the candidate who receives, again, not to be repetitive, the most popular nationwide vote. It doesn't eliminate the Electoral College, but it's a different way of states joining together, pledging that their electors will reflect the national vote for president. And of course, you need 270 to get there. It ensures that the candidate who wins the most votes nationwide would be elected by the Electoral College as long as they get the compact states in the aggregate are 270 or more. We would be the 15th state to join that compact, plus the District of Columbia. We're getting pretty close. If we join the compact, the aggregate number of electoral votes would be 196, getting pretty close to the 270. We have to keep on going. Again, nothing will happen, even if 113 passes. Nothing will happen in the current paradigm until the aggregate number of states have joined the compact. So we'll continue to do the current paradigm. What's the argument for 113? Well, it advances one person, one vote. We have seen as Democrats and as American citizens several times in recent memory where the presidential candidate won the national vote but didn't win the 270 electoral votes and lost the election, quote unquote. This national popular vote will give all voters an equal impact on the outcome of the election. Instead of what's going on now, you see it. You know, Wisconsin, Florida, Michigan, blah, 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 blah. 7 or 8, Arizona, getting all the attention, all the investment of time from the candidates and their staff, and all those awful TV commercials. Let's get to a point where the president should be the person who gets the most popular votes nationwide. That's the argument for. Again, respecting our team wanted to show you just in one graphic here who endorses the national popular vote in Colorado. And you see from the ACLU to the League to Common Cause, these are the people behind the clipboards and the vote for yes on the issue. Voting against, People who argue against, say we're trying to sidestep the Constitution, go around the Electoral College, that'll be disruptive, and it could lead to recounts and litigation, trying to scare you. Whoops. It could delay results, cause confusion, and erode confidence. These are the arguments against it. Who's against it? Well, some research on people that are against it. I found Protect Colorado's Vote. I found a group called Conservatives Vote No on the National Popular Vote, and they spent $1.5 million, or collected 1.5 million to date to push against Prop 113. With one quote from the Protect Colorado's Vote from their website, this is about we the people holding politicians accountable who want to give away, they want to give away your vote and give away your voice. Do you want California to decide our next president? Well, no comment. So that is Prop 113. Who's behind it? Who got it on the ballot? The arguments for and against, and I'd be happy to take your questions.
We've got a couple questions in the chat window. Ian asked a really good question. Could the Supreme Court invalidate the national popular vote?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to say more than that?
I would, especially this upcoming Supreme Court. Stop it. I mean, if it's an agreement among the states, some organization, I presume, could, because it'll be a, how would you say, an entity, and litigation. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I would think litigation could make its way against this compact and in the federal courts, make its way to the Supreme Court, I presume. They're the law of the land, so unless there's an attorney out there that says I'm all wet, yeah, I think so.
Okay. The second question from Dana is, how do people become electors? And I think Dana is speaking of electors in the Electoral College.
I'm not sure whether they were appointed by the governor or by virtue of their... Yeah, go ahead, Troy.
Let me walk through that real quick, Rob.
Yeah, sure.
The electors are chosen for each party by the party. So as an example, this spring when we had the state convention, there was a slate of people who ran to be Democrat electors. Now, we always elect a slate that's a few more than we need because the candidates and the campaigns, in this case the Biden campaign, gets to cherry pick a little bit within that context. But on our side of the fence, that's how it's done.
So it's not by virtue of a position in the party or an elected position.
No, they are. We literally voted statewide for electors last spring at the state convention.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. It wasn't too deep in the weeds. Let's see, how about PowerPoint number 5 for Andy? Let's see if this comes up here. Can you all see that?
You bet.
Hey, I'm still saying y'all, Charlie. This not going to go away. Y'all and all y'all. Andy will talk about Prop 116.
Okay. I thank my team members for giving me the easier one. I don't think I'll have to get down in the weeds too much. It's going to be pretty straightforward. Proposition lowers the state income tax from the current 4.63, which is pretty low as it is, to 4.55. And someone might say, well, no big deal. I mean, that's not much, 0.08%. Why not? Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, we've talked a few times this evening about Ballotpedia, and it's easy to access that online. Just Google Ballotpedia. I would say it's nonpartisan in that it does give both sides. Some of the same information is found on the Secretary of State's website as well. So what does a yes vote mean? It means we decrease the state income tax rate from 4.63 to 4.55. And a no vote means we keep the rate at the current 4.63. All right, next slide, please. So who are some of the people that are behind this? If you've been in Colorado for a while, you've heard of John Caldera. John is the president of the Independence Institute. And this quote is found on Ballotpedia. Coronavirus has crippled our state. We must energize our economy, and in order to do that, people must need to be able to use more of their own money. It's time to lower taxes. The state legislature could do it, but they won't. So we will do it for them. And a Republican state senator, Jerry Sonnenberg, and across the board income tax reduction will allow business owners and their employees to keep and spend more of their own money. And we're going to see shortly what more of their own money actually is. Next slide, please. I think it's always important, as Rob pointed out, who are the people behind this? And follow the money. These are the people that are supporting this, this ballot measure. And if you look over to the far right column and do some quick mental arithmetic, we're about $800,000 that are being contributed toward this. Now, the bulk of that is in-kind contributions. And that's, I'm not really sure totally what that means. I imagine some of it is hiring high-priced lawyers that charge by the hour, billable hours, and then that amount of money is considered in-kind contributions. I have to admit, I should have talked to our own treasurer before commenting on this. But as you can see, though, the people in support are putting a lot of money behind this one way or another. Next slide, please. Okay, the opponents. Again, this is from Ballotpedia. Great Education Colorado. Great Education Colorado always tries valiantly to get enough money to fund public education in Colorado. We just do not fund it at a level that we should, in my opinion. And so this is a way that education will get a little more money than it currently is. And this is especially of concern during the coronavirus and its effect on our state budget. Fair Tax Colorado is, again, in favor of this. It would, Proposition 116, if passed, would demand a $150 million cut from our budget. And there's equivalence statements as to what that would mean. It's not good news for education and for other entities as well. Next slide, please. How much money are the people opposing it spending? Not very much. Not very much at all. Next slide, please. Well, this is right out of the blue book. It's this table here. I apologize for the clarity of the print, but I think you can see not a whole lot of money is going to be saved. You can look at your taxable income on the left side column and then move all the way to the right. And that's your savings that would be granted to you if Proposition 116 passed. Next slide, please. Here's the bottom line, the fiscal impact. And Charlie referenced this earlier too when he was introducing things. This is probably the most important thing, or not the most important, but certainly an important thing to consider. What's the fiscal impact? And we're all taxpayers, so let's look at the last item there. All taxpayers will pay 1.7% less in state income tax, though the impact in dollar terms will vary by income. And this, I think, is important. And I've put this in italics and added the red text. On average, individual income taxpayers will pay $37 less in individual income taxes for year 2000. let's see, if you still go to Starbucks, that might be $3 latte once a month for the next 12 months. So it's not going to amount to much in the way of savings. I'm going to come back to what Peggy said earlier. This could be a dog whistle measure, again, to get people to vote on this and on others that are considered more important by certain groups of people. And I think that's it. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Our state, not state, maybe someday, our party, Broomfield County Democratic Party treasurer says, in-kind contribution probably means the donor is paying for ads. So, and they're putting in a lot of money. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that information. A lot of money. And again, the amount of money saved isn't that much, but okay, one last thing. So suppose we cut that. In aggregate, there's going to be a lot of money lost, and among other entities losing money is education. And as I said before, we're not funding it adequately enough as it is. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you stole some of my thunder there that I wanted to really underline for people. And that is that take a step back as an educated voter. Again, that's our goal tonight. And as you get your ballot, we have COVID, and in listening to Matt Gray, the once in a lifetime probably negative impact on state revenue, consequently on the state budget, that so much work that's going on in the legislature is attempting to deal with some humongous cuts that they have to make. So even before the election here, there's a big bad problem, not just for the state budget, for municipal budgets, for fire districts, for school districts, and now here you have a ballot put in front of you. Cut the income tax. Well, who's going to vote against that? Well, think the big picture when it comes to Gallagher Amendment, how it's going to affect revenues to state and local governments, the income tax cut, that, you know, we all enjoy a wonderful lifestyle in Colorado and a brand new fire truck that comes to your house when you need it. And we just have to pay a certain level of taxes that actually our taxes are not that high compared to other places. So that's my commercial. Some final comments from Charlie and Andy before I close out with a nuts and bolts presentation on how to vote. Charlie, you wanted to talk about table 1, if I can get that for you. Let's see. Is that up on the screen now for everybody?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
And this table 1 is right out of your blue book. It's an opportunity for you to see all the different items and get a snapshot of where they're from. We can't overemphasize the importance of voting all the way down the ballot.
Yep.
We've seen so many issues in the country in the last 5 years that are really local government issues. And because of the way our country's organized, we need a DA that understands exactly what is justice in our community, that is a hands-on DA and will manage the process. We need a state senator that will listen to everybody and work to build coalitions and teams to get things done. We're given the opportunity to, like Rob said, to have influence on the funding level for the services we all appreciate and enjoy.
Yep.
So voting both sides of that ballot is extremely important to all of us. And we hope that we've given you a little bit of insight tonight in how to get comfortable with the length of the ballot and some options on how to decide.
Thank you, Charlie. Andy, you wanted the slide back up with, there you go.
Yes, thanks, Rob. Yes, for more information, you can go to the Broomfield DIMS site, and if you go to the Broomfield DIMS website, at the top of the page there, under elections, there's a drop-down menu, and you could go to what you're seeing here at broomfielddims.org voter guide. And as a preview, you get to see it right now, first time. This coming Sunday, there will be a voter guide. It's close to what you're going to see on the website in the Broomfield Enterprise, and you can clip and save it and put it right next to your ballot. Now, we're not telling you how to vote, but if you want to know how the Broomfield Democrats have taken positions on everything, candidates as well as ballot measures, either go to the website or check your Broomfield Enterprise this Sunday. Again, I'll say Ballotpedia is a good source for a lot of information, more than what we shared with you this evening. So, good places to go.
Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to close with a nuts and bolts presentation. You know your ballot now, I hope. You know your blue book. Little background here, that's some show and tell. After a little editorial comment, we're all aware of some ongoing dastardly tactics designed to limit citizens' universal access to and participation in the general election. In the face of that, I will say to you that you have the power as a voter. That was what tonight was about, empowerment. As Rachel Maddow said on air last week, don't be intimidated by the chaos. Keep calm, keep your chin up, stay focused on the goal, and vote, vote, vote. Let's take a look at the ballot and see how klutzy I can go for you going through here. A little background is voter fraud is a myth. And where I would take you to is the one that really got to me was that second bullet point that was pulled from, well, the Washington Post, but I saw it on a PBS story on the evening news with Judy Woodruff. A study of 1 billion, with a B, votes that were cast in 14 years. There were 31 credible instances of fraud out of 1 billion. And then I take you to the quote at the bottom: the surest way to achieve voting that is truly free, fair, and accessible is to know the facts. And that's what tonight is all about for you. We're doing this with a lot of work, but a lot of pride, and hope it's working for you. I would say that Colorado is a superstar. 99% of voters in the recent primary voted in a paper ballot that they mailed in or put in the drop box. Only 1% voted in person. Show and tell time. I'm going to hold some stuff up to the camera, so I hope it works for you, because you all have not received your ballot packet yet from the Broomfield County Election Division. So you're going to get a ballot envelope, of course. Hold it up. Yes, dear. Let's see if I can do this.
Rob, you probably need to stop sharing your screen so we can see your camera.
Okay. I can do that like this, I hope. You can see my smiling face too.
Yeah, if you click the stop share.
Stop share.
There you go.
There's my smiling face. Okay. When you get your ballot packet from Broomfield County Elections Division, there'll be a couple things in there. Obviously, the cover letter that maybe you've seen before with all the different sections on it. What's in my packet? If I have any questions, how do I return my ballot? You know, the usual cover letter. You'll get that. You're going to get your official ballot envelope, your return envelope. That's the front. And this is the back, and I'm going to talk a few minutes about that. Back on that screen that went away, you'll have an intelligent mailing barcode unique to you on your ballot, so you can, on your ballot package, so you can track your ballot. Again, we're a superstar. You can track your ballot throughout the mail and balloting processing system. That is so good. Your ballot is run through a customized mail sorter connected to the voting registration database, opened by machines that maintain your ballot secrecy, and fed into a high-speed scanner. We are superstars. Now, remember your ballot. Again, this is tricky here. Remember, next to the candidate, there's that little oval. I don't want to be condescending. I don't want to insult your intelligence, especially you, Alan, because I walk with you and your wife when we go hiking. But the research that I did, especially through the Secretary of State, there are about 1.6% of paper ballots and have to be cured by the elections division staff. They have to track you down and ask you questions. So what do I mean? Make sure you fill in that oval completely, nice and dark with blue or black ink. I actually got in trouble one time for using red in a different state. Blue or black ink. Don't check the little oval. Don't put an X on it. Fill it in. Another piece of advice from the state was some people, bless their hearts, they sign the ballot. Do not sign your ballot. Note that the ballot's printed on front and back. Around the edges, you probably can see there's gingerbread around the edges. I have no idea what that is. I think it's for the electronic scanner readers at the election division. There's been a problem in the past. People try to trim that off with the scissors. Don't trim or alter your ballot. Don't try to reduce the size of it. It's fine. After you vote, and of course you put your ballot in your ballot return envelope. One ballot per envelope. If you and your spouse vote, I'll just put it in, no. One ballot per return envelope. Now, this is important. Pay attention, folks. I'm sure you remember, being a previous voter, this official ballot enclosed envelope that you've received before in previous years. It has holes that are already pre-cut, and it says official ballot envelope. And I guess previous paradigm was you fill out your ballot, then you put it inside this booger, then you put this booger inside your mailing envelope before you mail it back or drop it in the ballot box. The election division is eliminating this step this year. Don't pay any attention to this step where it has these little pre-cut windows. You won't have to use this if you do get it, I'm going to say in error, in your ballot packet from the Broomfield election division. You don't have to use it this year. You can take your ballot after you fill it out, don't sign it, and you put it in your official purple ballot enclosed envelope. So far, so good. Now, what do you do with this purple? After you fill out your ballot, what do you do with this purple return envelope? Remember, there's on the back, there's that signature area. It's entitled self-affirmation. That sounds dangerous, but that's where you sign. You sign your signature vis-a-vis the electronically generated mailing label that's on your packet that you get from the county. So, for example, with me, I don't sign Bob Goldsmith or Bubba Goldsmith like I would have done in Alabama. It's Robert J. Goldsmith. Sign nice and clear as your self-affirmation, and then there's a place for a date underneath that. There's a witness full legal name. You don't have to. That's only for people who, for whatever personal reason, they need to have a witness of their signature. Those are very special circumstances. But sign your name in full, the way the ballot electronic generated name is, and do it nice and clearly. Not the way I sign my checks, Robert J. Goldsmith. Beware and be careful. No scribble, make sure it's clear. Note that all ballot signatures software at the election division, and they're double checked. So if you don't, if you fail to do some of these nuts and bolts things, especially that self-affirmation signature, they'll have to cure your ballot. They won't accept it until they track you down and say, Alan Gross, what is that your signature on this ballot? All I see is a schmear. So be very careful with that self-affirmation and the date that you sign. Okay, so you've filled out the front and the back of your ballot. You've folded it, you put it in that purple so-called ballot return envelope. You've ignored the old one, if you get it, with all the holes pre-cut in it. The ballots are going out, I believe, the 9th of October. So that will give you time to use your blue book and fill out your ballot and do all this good stuff, and affix, if you mail it, 2 first-class stamps on your completed and sealed ballot envelope and mail it back. I would suggest get it back in the mail by October 20th. It tells you to seal your envelope before you mail it. That's good old spit or moisture. Do not use Scotch tape. That's another error that we were told to pass on to you. Good old moisture, not Scotch tape. So try to get it in the mail by October 20th so it gets where it needs to go in Broomfield and get processed. If you're going to take your completed and sealed ballot envelope and drop it in the one of the designated official drop boxes in our county, like the Anthem Ranch drop box at the North Entrance Guardhouse. The drop box that I know about at Anthem Ranch will not be unlocked by officials until October 19th. So fill out your ballot, put it in the envelope, mail it by the 20th. If you want to put it in the drop box, I'm going to guess that all drop boxes, because that was from the Colorado Department of State, they won't unlock drop boxes till the 19th. Do's and don'ts, nuts and bolts, questions. I'll be happy to answer for you.
I've got some questions.
Okay.
This is Dottie. Okay. I believe the cover letter that you showed us will list all of the locations of all the drop boxes that people can go to, any one of them, not just their closest one. Is that correct? I believe in the past that's what they've
Which
listed.
paper?
All
That is correct.
Too much paper. Well, the experts say, oh, there they are. That is correct.
How many are there this year, boxes?
I think there's 6 this year.
Okay.
24-hour drop boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Skystone, Vista. Yeah, they're listed, and they're 24-hour drop boxes. Yes. Thanks,
Okay.
Charlie.
Another question. So what you're saying, I'm not sure I got it real clear. In the past, we've had 2 envelopes to deal with, the secrecy one and then the mailing one. Now
Right.
there's only one envelope to deal with. That one either is to be mailed or dropped or even taken to a voting location, correct?
Right. I guess they call it the security envelope. Again, that's a little naivete from not living here long enough. And that's been phased out, I'm told, so.
But it's not really just the security envelope is the only envelope, right?
Well, the other envelope is your ballot return envelope. And
Oh,
that's,
then there is 2
yeah.
envelopes.
Right.
Oh,
So-
okay.
so-
It sounded like you had changed it to 1. I know some state only has 1 envelope now, and I thought that's
Yeah.
what you were saying.
This is the ballot return,
Right.
front and back, the one that you signed.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Could you please, and I have one more thing to say, but could you please tell people what to do if they ruin their ballot? They can't just cross it out and fill in another oval. If they've done something wrong, or can you let people know what they should do? I know, but people need to know what they should do.
Charlie, do you know? I don't know.
I don't.
How do
I've
you get
never had that.
a replacement
I think
ballot?
you can just take it into a polling place once that's open and request a new ballot, and they'll take your old one and destroy it and give you a new one.
Makes sense.
Yes, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Good.
One
thank
other
you.
thing I want to alert people, I don't know if any
Sure.
of you people have heard of this. I watch a program on Channel 9, which I believe is NBC, every night, 5 nights a week at 6 o'clock, goes from 6 to 6:30, called Next, and Next with Kyle Clark.
Kyle Clark.
He announced about a week ago that once, I'm not real clear on the date, it sounded like once he thought everybody had their ballot, so I'm not sure what date that would be. But and I don't know how many nights they're going to do this to complete everything on the ballot. But he said, we want you to all have your ballots laid out in front of you, and we're going to go through every issue and explain pros and cons without telling you which way to vote, and try to help people understand their ballots. And I thought that might be, I mean, there are some things that I think I could watch 15 shows on the Gallagher and I still wouldn't get it. So
Exactly.
I'm going to watch that one too. But I think that could be really informative for people without pushing one side or the other.
Sure is, and that information is power, and
Right.
whatever we can encourage people to do. Charlie and Andy, I think the ballot packets are being mailed by Broomfield County starting October 9th. Is that
Yes.
true?
They have to
That's
be.
right.
They have to be completely mailed by October
October
9th.
the 9th. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, we got a couple things in the chat room.
Yeah, please.
First is, actually, it's a comment from Barb. Barbara says, when you sign your ballot, use the same signature as that on your driver's license, which is probably the same as what Rob said on the electronic mailing label that came to you.
Yeah.
So, as an example, it's Andrew Thomas Kramer on my driver's license, and that's how I sign my ballot. Another point is, or question, does the state start counting ballots when they are received, or do they have to wait for election day? Charlie, you want to handle that?
It's received, right?
They do start processing ballots on the 19th, but they don't release any of the figures. They will actually take them out of the envelope, put them in the machine, but they don't get any readout until after all the ballots have been counted.
Okay. Good question. Important question. Any others? Okay.
Well, there's one more thing in the chat
Yes,
room.
please.
If you happen to be looking there, I've been getting a text from Guy Lean, Castriata, on City Council. If you want to call that number in the chat box, 855-695-3744, and press *3. You would be in a queue to comment on ballot measure 2A and ballot measure 2B, and we would hope that your comments would be in favor of those two ballots. Again, not telling anyone how to vote, but
Certainly not. No.
find.
Because you're a U.S. citizen, you can vote. That's right.
Right. City Council would appreciate. City Council would appreciate hearing from you. That's 1-855-695-3744, *3.
Okay, Peggy. It was an hour. How do we do?
You guys need some time management skills,
Yeah.
but I thought that the presentations were really well done, and I appreciate that. And I really appreciate you guys getting down to the details. So thank you very much. And I hope that you continue this tradition, and that you will always be the anthem dudes that talk about the Blue Book. So
Anytime.
with that, good night, everybody.
Good. Thank you,
Night.
Peggy. Charlie, Andy, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.